Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another live stream. Apologize for the noise. I'm just going to sit here for a bit and see if anyone shows up. Okay, well, it's just me at the moment. For anyone watching this after the fact, thanks for tuning in. I don't know what this is going to turn into. This is my second attempt at a debate. And by debate, I mean a general discussion with whoever wants to come up and discuss with me. I apologize in advance. I have a bit of a cold coming up. Pretty crazy. I've gotten sick several times this year, and prior to that, I don't think I was sick for the previous 6 years, if not more. I think it's because I moved back to Manitoba and the weather changed, potentially. Who knows? But yeah, I could feel it coming on. Feeling drowsy. Got that itch in your throat. So yeah, the goal of today was to have some discussions around the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. We are celebrating the 44th anniversary of the Charter, created by Justin Trudeau's father, Pierre Elliott Trudeau. And I'd like to hear some people's thoughts on it. But if it turns out that no one shows up, that's okay, and we'll try it another day. I think just like last time, I'm going to give it about half an hour, see if we get anyone that pops in, anyone that wants to have a chat. And if no one shows up, then we'll try again next time. Thank you, Critical Chris Fan 2.0. Appreciate you popping in. I will see you next time. It's a busy Friday for everyone, for my usual niche audience. So I may be doing this one alone, and that's okay. It'd be cool to get some people who have never come on to the live before, people I don't know. That'd be pretty cool. If there's anyone watching this after the fact, make sure to tune in next time I come on live. The more people we have, the more fun we have, the more discussions we have. I've noticed that I've been getting a lot of views on the live after the fact, but that doesn't help with the engagement during the live. So, excuse me. the more people we have during the live, the better. Whether that's people that disagree with me or people that agree with me, I want you all in the chat, and anyone who'd like to, you can come call in. I'd like to hear the voices of the people that have been supporting me. It's been pretty fantastic, to be honest. I've had a lot of growth over the last 2 weeks. Started this about 2 weeks ago, and already up to 52 subscribers and several thousand views on the videos and the episodes that I've released thus far. So feeling very grateful, very thankful. Even if everyone's busy today and during the lives, I haven't quite figured out how to get people to tune into the lives. I guess I got to come up with a pretty consistent schedule so that people are aware. That way they can make a note and make an effort to come on in. Once I figured that out, these might go a little bit smoother in the future. But until then, trial and error. Right? I see we got another viewer. Can I get a response in the chat? Let me know who's here, who's watching. Welcome, by the way. Oh, I know you're there. You're being sneaky. Don't be afraid to come in on the chat. We can have a chat. We can discuss the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Unless it's my fiancée that just joined. That would make sense. She sometimes pops in and then doesn't say anything. Hold on just 1 second. Oh, maybe it's not her. Well, whoever you are, thanks for joining. I was just saying that this is a process of trial and error for me, trying to figure out how to get people to tune into these lives while I'm actually streaming rather than after the fact, because I can engage a lot more when people are here. Because the last few episodes I haven't really planned anything. I've been saving that for my actual shows, In Focus, the Roundup, and I've been preparing for Beyond the Headlines, which I'm excited to release those. They just require a lot more time and a lot more work to actually create because they're more in-depth, longer format. Whereas the In Focus, as you guys probably are aware if you've seen my shows, In Focus is quite short, and I do that on purpose so that you guys can click, hear the news, and then hop on out again. And then the Roundup's just a little bit more in-depth. So yeah, we got shows for whatever your desire may be as far as Canadian politics goes. And maybe I'll expand into American politics, because we have some deep, I'm just looking at my phone. We have some deep ties with the Americans, politically, economically, historically. Actually posted that on X today. What was that post in response to? Let's take a look, shall we? While we're waiting for some people to show up. Oh, that was bright. Let's get a 1 in the chat for whoever's listening. It says we got 3 viewers right now. I don't know who the 3 viewers could be. Or maybe it's 2 viewers. Who knows? Oh, it is Kat. Okay. So it's just me and my fiance. I had a feeling. Baby, I think this is going to be a short one today. I'm giving it till 8 o'clock to see if anyone tunes in, and if no one tunes in, then we'll try again next time. Oh. Yeah, it was in response to the announcement about EU saying that they would love to have us as the 28th state. Here, let's see. I'll zoom in a little bit here. There we go. I just think it's hilarious, the irony. Oh, it's just me again. See, the fiance, she pops in and she pops out again. She just wants to make sure I'm okay. She could always just come around the corner and look, but I think she's being polite. But yeah, I just think it's completely ironic that, we spent the last year of Canadians freaking out over, the typical rhetoric that Trump uses. I said this in one of my videos recently. Trump has a tendency to portray himself quite differently in front of the media and while using social media than his actions and his policies would reflect. And people should be aware of that after 10 years of Trump being in the spotlight. But I don't know if Canadians are just extremely naive, extremely uninformed, or stuck in an echo chamber of what CBC and CTV and Global News tells us. Thing is, though, is I don't get it, because there's people my age who maintain that Trump is this maniacal villain, Nazi fascist, and they're on the same social media platforms that I'm on. Are they that out of touch? Do they not see the policies he's driving? I mean, it goes all the way up to the ICE thing. The way that he's handled ICE, that was what he was voted in to do. And the irony behind it all is that as far as the procedures, there's nothing different between how Trump's rounding up the illegals and how Obama and Biden did it. In fact, some would say that Obama took less care with the handling of the illegal immigration, with the separation of children and parents and putting them in cages. And there was some pushback against that. There was some minor pushback, but there was never the outpouring of rage, the outcries from the opposition that there is with Trump. Now, some would say that, ICE murdered 2 American citizens. Well, the outrage started long before that. And I would say that the reason those 2 people died, and it is an unfortunate, what's the word I'm looking for? It's an unfortunate, sorry, my brain's a little foggy today. It's always foggy to begin with. Just so everyone's aware, I have a long history of concussions from hockey. So I I don't suffer. I just have a lot of brain fog. So it takes me some time to think of words a lot of the time. They just escape me all the time. And then, that feeling when you're quite tired and you can't just get the words out that you want to get out? That's kind of how I feel all the time. Even when I'm pretty alert, the words just escape me quite a bit. But worth it when, you get a life of enjoying a fantastic sport. Anyways, where was I? I was saying that, I was talking about how prior to the American citizens being shot, there was already rage. It was already established. Like the circumstances around the 2 deaths. Tragic. It's tragic, even if you disagree with their politics. And I shouldn't be saying even if. No matter who it is, the loss of a life is a loss of a life. Now, do I think those people were absolute idiots? Of course. But they absolutely didn't deserve to die. And I would say it's an unfortunate circumstance in both cases. And it's honestly heartbreaking, because you think about what ICE is doing. Trump has made it absolutely clear that his primary mandate is to get criminals out. And actually, there's a website. It's funny because they talk about how they're deporting Americans. No, they're not. They're not deporting Americans. They've made a mistake a few times, handful of times, which is bound to happen when you're talking about a large-scale project run by a federal institution overseeing, 50 different states, there's going to be some mistakes from time to time. And then what happens is they get detained, they find out that they're Americans, and they're released. And that's it. There's been absolutely no cases of any American citizens being deported. And if they were deported, you know what would happen? They would just cross right back in. If that were to happen. Because they were Americans. But that's not what happened. But in regards to those shootings, though, regard to the shootings, it was the rhetoric being pushed by the left and those who were funding the protests and riots and stuff that were happening that caused the situation to become so inflamed and so, I don't want to say, well, it was kind of violent prior to the shootings. I mean, if law enforcement is engaged in a lawful action, a duty of rounding up an individual who was guilty of sexual assault, and you're blocking the street, preventing them from being able to safely secure the area, vacate the area if necessary, if things were to get dangerous. Just like the people who got shot, their lives have value. So do the lives of the ICE officers who are trying to do their jobs. And their safety is important as well. And when you're blocking the roads and preventing them from having a safe route, a safe exit, you are inflaming a situation and making things... You're putting them in a situation where they have to act swiftly and quickly and make decisions that they shouldn't have to make given the scenario. Their focus should be on that one individual or maybe, let's say, handful of individuals that they're trying to apprehend. It should not be on American citizens preventing them from doing their jobs. And then the antagonizing, turns out that they were there for hours upon hours antagonizing them. Here, I'm just going to look this up real quick, and then I'll show you guys, because a lot of you guys probably don't know this. Okay. So in response to all the allegations against the U.S. for them just going to Home Depot and rounding up, regular civilians, which the U.S. has been doing for years and years and years and years, far, far before Trump was president, they were rounding up individuals at Home Depot because that was a hot spot for illegals to work. What would happen is people would wait outside of the Home Depot to get picked up by jobs and get paid cash to work in construction sites. And so it's an easy way to pick out who's an illegal, because they would literally stand there in large groups, and it would be like a, what do they call them? The temp agency. It'd be like an illegitimate temp agency where you can bypass legal systems. You don't have to pay, the same payroll tax and employee taxes that you have to pay. I don't know what it's like state to state or anything, but you're avoiding having to deal with all that. You're saving money essentially, but the individuals that they'd pick up, they'd be waiting outside of Home Depot, and so for years they've been doing that, rounding up people at Home Depot. But for some reason, because Trump was the one that ordered the current mandate around illegal immigration, which he was voted in specifically to do. That was probably the most pressing issue that he was voted in for. Americans, by and large, regardless of which side they were on, agreed that illegal immigration had gone too far. It had reached a scale that was unmanageable, and it was starting to show effects. I personally think that a single illegal immigrant is too much. And to be honest, I wish that Canada, to bring it back to Canada, I wish that we would implement something similar. The problem is, well, actually, no. I was going to say the problem is that many of the immigrants that we have are legal, but they're actually not. They're legal upon entry. What they do is they come here using fraudulent student visas, which I've talked about in the past. And then once their visa expires, they stay. And then they become illegal. So I wish that we would implement the same sort of strategy here. And I personally think Trump's not doing enough. He's backed down on a lot of fronts because I think he understands the political game. If he pushes too hard and the rhetoric has gone too far, he's going to end up with a House minority. And then he's going to be right back to square one. Same place he was in when he was first-term president. Not good. But anyways, back to Canada. Yeah, I wish we would implement the same thing. Aggressive deportation tactics. Speaking of immigrants and deportation, I thought it was absolutely hilarious how Hungary. Actually, before I go there, I'll just show you this. So this website, the Trump administration created this in response to the heated rhetoric pointed at him because of the claims that he was just arresting everyday illegal immigrants. They didn't commit any crimes, despite the fact that it's in the name. They're illegal. They crossed the border illegally. Oh, someone's here. Thanks for the hearts. I'm assuming it's Cat Allard 26. Thank you very much. I love you too. And if it's not you, then thank you for whoever you are for producing those hearts. But anyways, so in response to that, he released this website, which lists and names all the people that they've been rounding up. Now let's see if these are everyday, regular illegals that are just trying to get ahead in life. So we got Alfonso Santillan Sanchez. I'm not a Spanish. I can't speak Spanish, so I apologize if I'm getting these names way wrong. If I'm off on these names. So, 3rd-degree rape, unlawful imprisonment, 2nd-degree assault with a deadly weapon. Man, he should be allowed to stay, huh? Why did they pick him up? There was one instance where the ICE officer literally told a protester who was blocking the street, "We are trying to pick up someone who is guilty of rape." And the individual responded, "I don't care." How convoluted does your perspective of life and politics have to be in order to believe that what you're doing is right when you are preventing officers from arresting someone who is guilty of rape? And more often than not, these individuals, they're not just, it's not just, there's no such thing as just, roundabout rape, but this is violent rape, often ending in torture and murder. And your response is, "I don't care." Unbelievably out of touch. Anyways, let's look. Aggravated assault, strangulation, terroristic threats. Man, why'd they arrest him? Manslaughter. Killed someone. Why did they have to arrest him? He's just, an everyday immigrant. Just trying to get by, trying to feed his family. Statutory rape. North Carolina. Nah, look at him. He's a nice guy. Why'd they arrest him? Possession of child pornography. Well, there's a lot of people on the left who are trying to push for pedophilia being a normalized what's the word? Identity. So I guess they could support that. First degree criminal sexual penetration of a child under 13 years old. First degree, as in planned and intentional. As in, he didn't just, stumble across this scenario where he did it, which evil on its own. But he took the time to plan this out. Criminal sexual penetration. He raped a child under 13 years old. Nah, but he should be allowed to stay. Why'd they deport him? Why'd they arrest him? Trump's bad. What he's doing is bad. These are good people that he's arresting. Good people. The child probably deserved it. And I'm going to get... Dang it, I just realized I can't say that word. Grape is what I said. YouTube's going to flag me for that one. Shite. Sorry, YouTube. I'm new at this. I forget that there's a lot of restrictions on what I can and can't say. I'm supposed to say corn instead of the P word as well, so I don't have anyone holding me accountable because I'm all alone here. Oh well. You live and you learn. Hopefully this doesn't result in my account getting banned. Okay, so sexual... I'll just let you guys read it. So this guy from Utah, Jonathan Jeffet Lopez Cornell. This one. Look at this one. The M word of a minor. Drug trafficking and SA. Good men, good people. Hard workers. Just trying to provide for their family. DV, PV, so he violated his parole. And then look at this, voluntary. Not involuntary, it wasn't accidental, he intentionally did it, whoever he did it to. And he's part of a cartel. Good man. Should probably stay. Don't know why they're rounding him up. Exploitation of a minor, cruelty toward child, SOA, child fondue, SA, enticement for indecent purposes in Pennsylvania. The people of Pennsylvania, you must be outraged that this upstanding citizen is no longer on the streets of your great state. You must be outraged. He was a model citizen. Someone your children should look up to. And that evil piece of bleeping crap, Trump, had this man arrested and rounded up. How could he? More stuff. I mean, there's a trend here. This stuff, honestly, it angers me. But no kings, right? No kings. We don't want a man like Trump. MS-13. And look at this. This isn't, these aren't rare circumstances. I could go through the list. I'm not going to, because you see the number here. 2,569 pages with, what is this, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So that's 25,000 roughly. 30,000 people on this page. And he just released this as of December, I think. I think it was when, don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. Maybe it was December of last year. Like the 2020. No, that doesn't make sense. It would have been, December of this year, I think. Anyways, 30,000 roughly, give or take. Given that there's 12 per page and 2,500 pages. And they all, I mean, this one, illegal reentry. This is probably the statute that he violated. But look at this, MS-13. We all know what that is. He's a member of the cartel. But he didn't do anything wrong. He just crossed. Who cares if he's a member of a cartel that, partakes in D-trafficking and SA and human trafficking? He's a good guy. Look at him. Look at that goatee. That bald head. That's going to be me in a few years with that bald head. Not what he does, but with the bald head. He's just like me. Upstanding citizen. Citizens of Indiana, you must be livid. Must be livid. Racketeering. Another MS-13 member. Wow. Burglary. Possession of a weapon. Illegal reentry. So he was deported. Came back. Aggravated assault. With a gun. Twice. Two counts of that. Cruelty toward a child. Aggravated assault with a gun. Disorderly contact. Homicide. Negligent manslaughter. So I'm assuming these charges all relate to one incident. Driving under influence. So maybe he was drinking and driving. Good man. He is what we all aspire to be. Look at this one. Yeah. Muhammad. Kahal. Good people. Good people. Just absolutely mind-boggling. Just mind-boggling. Excuse me for 1 second. For those who are watching post-live, excuse me. It's just mind-boggling to me that Trump would have these people deported. I can't believe it. It breaks my heart. The guy is acting like a dictator, an authoritarian. He thinks he's royalty. Asinine. I'm sorry that I'm moving along so slowly. I'm just waiting to see if anyone else wants to come in. Is there anyone here still, or am I just talking to myself at this point? I feel like I'm just talking to myself. That's okay. I can talk for a little bit. There's a couple people I think who have an intention of joining. So I think we get the point though. Right? These aren't just everyday ordinary citizens. In a brief survey about your experience today with DHS. No, thank you. I'm not American. You don't want me to partake in that. Homicide. I mean, I could go through this list for hours because you know what? It paints a picture of how. Thanks, Cat Allard 26. My favorite guest. We're gonna throw a heart up for you. No, we're gonna throw two. I was kind of hoping that with the amount of subscribers I have that they'd be getting notifications or something. That tells me that they're not putting on the notification bell, which is okay. A lot of work. Do we have a couple more people? It says there's 4 people watching now. If there are people watching, please throw yourself in the chat. Introduce yourself. I've just been rambling on. I wasn't even sure where I was going. Just kind of ended up somewhere. currently looking at a list of upstanding citizens. And I was just reflecting on the fact that I think it's absolutely insane that Trump is willing to deport these people. Oh, no, we're back down to 1. So maybe it wasn't 4 people. Maybe it was a glitch. I think it's just my lovely cat and me. Cat and I. There, my face is big again. We can celebrate. Anyways, there's something funny that happened this week. So there was an election held in Hungary. And I was pretty disappointed with the result at first, because I, like many others, thought that the individual who was voted in, I thought he was replacing someone who was one of the only people in Europe, at least, that was anti-mass immigration and was fighting for his actual citizens. He was standing up to the EU and their immigration mandates. Now, mind you, yeah, there's some stuff happening, some stuff that could have been considered corrupt. I haven't looked too much into it, so I'm not going to speak on that. All I know is I was in favor of his immigration policies. And then the person who was voted in was supposed to be an EU plant, and turns out that's not the case. It's so funny, because everyone was celebrating. Obama was celebrating. Trudeau was celebrating. Carney was celebrating. It's a great day for democracy, they say. They were saying that, Viktor Orban was a man against democracy, and this was the day for democracy, and they were all celebrating. And what they were really celebrating was that there was another man who was in power who was going to fall in line, who was going to commit himself to the EU and the immigration mandates that they have, the internalized destruction of their societies. But then it turns out that this man is not that. There's some that are speculating even that he might have been coordinating this very scenario with Orban. Which, if that is the case, that is the biggest 5D chess move I've ever seen. If that's the case. That's just complete hearsay and speculation. But still, paints a pretty picture. But yeah, he Hungary will not accept any pact. In fact, I'm going to reinforce the border fence even more. How you do that, I don't know. I think Orban had let in some foreign workers, and this gentleman, Magyar Peter, he wants to eliminate all foreign workers. Now, what's my position on that? I think my position is that I want to think about this for a minute. Canadians first. Let's start there. And if there's not enough Canadians to fill the jobs that need to be filled, then find a way to get them to fill those jobs. Incentivize it. Incentivize the programs needed to fill those jobs. How do you do that? Taxes. I think that's a simple way to start. Reduce taxes. Work with these industries and these companies. Create some sort of framework where there's a promise. We will reduce corporate tax rates, regulations, things that Pierre Poilievre are calling for. Not that I'm a Pierre Poilievre fan, but things that he's calling for that I think would help as far as economics go. But I think it could go a lot further in terms of incentivization. Fill these jobs with Canadians. And then once those jobs are completely full and our unemployment rate is as low as it can possibly be and our economy is thriving, then we should be looking at it on a case-by-case basis. No mandate. No targets to hit. No, we want 500,000. We want 300,000. None of that. And it should be local. It should be local, federally regulated, but locally implemented. In that a small town has a new startup, and that startup needs an engineer. And there's no Canadian available. Canadians are all working. Everyone's prospering to some extent. Obviously, this is, we're taking this to the maximum level here when I'm using this rhetoric. Not every Canadian's going to be able to work. Unemployment's not going to reach zero. But I think you guys understand what I mean. But once we've hit that point where there's a clear trend, upward growth, I don't even like to reference the GDP because I think that's a ridiculous metric to use anyways. But jobs, industry growth, job creation, startups. Let's start with the fact that once we have more businesses starting than we have shutting down and leaving the country, that might be a good start. But anyway, small town needs an engineer. Okay, they request it. The government approves the request. And I'm not saying, red tape up the yin yang where it takes 6 years to approve it. It could be an automated system. A lot of things could be automated nowadays, but it could be automated. Gets approved, and we're not picking people from a single country. And one thing I will say is the prioritization of people from countries that are adverse to how our culture functions and how our society functions and our moral philosophy, the foundations of our society. If they are antithetical to the way that we live our life, then no. No. You got to clean up yourself before you can go somewhere else. And then, if you are from one of those countries, because you do stand out in a positive way, because despite the fact that I'm not afraid to say that some cultures are better than other cultures, I do believe that every person is inherently a person first. I can despise a culture and not hate every person within that culture. And that's how I feel about things. So if there is an individual that does come from that culture, I do think there should be a probational period for them to prove that they are who they say they are. And with a controlled flow of immigration like that, where it's small numbers, we know where everyone is. And I don't mean every Canadian citizen. I mean immigrants who are here temporarily. A privilege, not a right. And if it turns out that they fraudulently came into the country, not hard to round them up when it's a small number. Pack their bags and leave. But the mandate shouldn't be, we need a certain amount of people from one country and a certain amount of people from another country, or a certain amount of people from a certain region, a certain amount of people of this color, of this language. It should be, what job is it that needs to be filled, and who is the absolute best person for this job? End of story. You fill the qualifications and then some? Welcome. And once you're here, if you partake, you understand our ethics, you understand our morals, you obey our laws, and you practice our cultural, you partake in our culture. Step one should be you have to go to a hockey game. I'm being slightly facetious there, but still. You should go to the hockey game. And if you don't stand up once in celebration and jubilation, then you're out. Sorry, terrible sound. Yeah. 100%, Cat says. Is that you, Cat? Is that you throwing up hundreds? Anyways, that was the election in Hungary. They're doing good things over there. I wish Canada would do the same. There's so many things that happened this week. So many things. It's hard for me to cover it all. Well, I mean, I guess I haven't technically made a video on the fact that the Liberals gained a majority. An unelected majority. Now, technically, they were elected. But the elections are not what provided the majority. It was backdoor deals and floor crossers. The Liberals admitted to approaching them months in advance, with Liberal pundits saying that there could be 10 more on the way. Well, 9 now that we know who one of them was, with Marilyn Gladu, but an unelected majority. Maybe I did talk about that in my last video. We're not going to cry over spilt milk. Instead, let's worry about what's coming next. Censorship bills. Throw up a like if you saw my video on censorship this week. That was a deep one for me. An important one, I believe. But I disagree with the intention of the government behind it. Well, kind of just rambling here. I haven't, like I said, I didn't really have a plan. I was hoping that some people would come up and have a discussion with me, but seeing as it's just myself and my fiance and she's in the other room waiting for me, perhaps we'll make this a quick one. It's already 8:20. We're almost at an hour. It's been slow. I apologize for that. But there's been some good shows that were released this week. Go give them a watch. Some good stuff touched on. I haven't been able to report on everything that I want to report on. I want to get further. I want to be able to do it more efficiently. I'm still trying to figure that out. A lot of time goes into. I say this every live, but a lot of time goes into it. In fact, I don't think I've had more than 15 hours of sleep this entire week. Much to the chagrin of my fiance. The goal is to get more content, more consistent content, and keep the accurate content coming. Now, my opinion is thrown in there, but the reporting, I'm trying to keep that accurate. If you bring the truth and don't twist the truth, because this is what I find with a lot of conservatives, is there are some true things that they're saying, but they also, just like liberals, they do want to be right as well. And so they will bend the truth. And the truth is, I'm saying truth a lot, you don't need to bend the truth to try and prove that you're correct about something. Dig deeper and stick with the facts. Because that way, when the liberals clap back at you, they have no ground to stand on. There's no foundation, and it will crumble as soon as you push back a little bit. It will devolve into ad hominems, emotional outbursts, and just flat out insults. Personal insults at that. But now, mind you, I did make a a joke in one of my videos where I said if you didn't understand something at a certain point that you probably have a low IQ. It was just a joke. I don't actually believe that if someone doesn't understand something that I'm saying, especially when I'm reporting on something that's, you have to have an understanding of the backstory behind. And also, sometimes I go on side tangents that can be confusing. Sometimes I do that a lot. I don't think that anyone who doesn't understand liberal or conservative has a low IQ. It was just a joke. And perhaps it didn't come across as a joke. So if anyone watches that video, it's the Mark Carney, Brookfield conflict of interest video that was released this past week. I don't think you have a low IQ. You may have a low IQ. But it's not necessarily because you don't understand or you don't accept what I was saying in the video. I was just trying to hit home the fact that as far as conflict of interests go, it doesn't get more hardline than that. Actually, it does. Champagne and the Alta line is as direct a conflict interest as you can find, which is crazy because the ethics commissioner, I believe, stated that there was no conflict of interest, or he doesn't believe there is. Although the ethics committee is trying to focus on it right now, and the Liberals are filibustering the hell out of it. But, yeah. What occurred with Carney and Brookfield, you can call it happenstance all you want. You could say that I'm reaching, that I'm digging, that I'm just looking for conspiracies. This is what I mean by present the facts. Make it clear that when I'm stating my opinion, I'm stating my opinion. But when I bring the facts, they're facts. You can't call it a conspiracy if I'm just reporting on what happened. And then when you tie that in to the language used in our bills around the Conflict of Interest Act, and it ties in directly to what is considered a conflict of interest, I'm sorry, but you could say whatever you want about it, but it's a conflict of interest. And that's what I mean about bringing the facts and only the facts, and don't try and twist it just so that you're right. Oh, hey, Cash. Sorry, Critical Chris Fan 2.0. Whoops. How do you feel about Carney raising minimum wage 40 cents? I actually didn't see that. How do I feel about it? I'm generally against government mandated minimum wage. I'm pretty much a free market absolutist. However, given the current situation in the market, I don't think it benefits anyone necessarily. It's proven time and time again. Every time you increase the minimum wage, cost inflation just rises. It's probably not as bad as when the government prints money, but it's a similar idea. You have businesses, and, I'd love to have a business owner on to talk about this, but you have businesses that have what's called a profit margin. And when you encroach on those margins, they're forced to just increase the cost of the goods that they're selling or increase the cost of the service they're providing. So are you really making more if everything that you have to purchase costs more? No. The answer is no. And this happens every time. There's people say that it doesn't. They argue that it doesn't. So yeah, I'm not in favor. Problem is, currently in the workforce, there's far too few jobs and far too many people trying to work. It's an issue of supply and demand. And why does that happen? Well, it ties back to immigration. We have far too many people in this country. More people were brought in than were necessary. So, too many people competing for the same jobs. So that takes away the advantage of being able to bargain for your position. You have less value. If there's 6 other people that can provide the same job that you can, and 2 of them are willing to work for less than you, you're not getting the job, regardless of how cute your smile is. Cat. Actually, I take that back. Someone like Cat could get a job anywhere. All she's got to do is open her mouth for a few minutes and she's guaranteed a job. But we're not all cats. I know my ugly mug ain't getting a job because of, my pearly whites. They're pearly blacks. I got fake teeth. Hockey. Yeah, not a fan. It's all performative. Critical Chris fan. It's all performative. He's trying to present himself as working towards helping the people and making life more affordable for the people. It's no different than the grocery rebate. It's no different than the temporary, and keyword being temporary, removal of the gas excise tax. It's no different. These are all performative. The funny thing about that is that the timing of the gas excise tax directly correlated with when the cost of gas was going to go up anyways, because gas fluctuates seasonally. There's market trends that fluctuate due to, international relations and stuff, things that occur around the world, like what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz. And but then there's seasonal changes that occur every year. And every spring, the cost of gas goes up. That's due to the fact that the makeup of the gas fluctuates. Now, I'm not going to get too much into that because I'm not entirely sure why or how that happens. But in the spring, the cost of gas goes up right around now. So it's not a coincidence that he announced this excise tax relief right when gas was about to go up again. He doesn't want it to go up because he doesn't want to look bad. So, temporary relief on the gas tax, and gas is going to stay the same. Now, the thing is, Carney hit the lottery on that. Because what happened today? Or was it yesterday? It was today. Donald Trump and Iran, the United States and Iran, came to, I don't know if it's a temporary agreement. I haven't looked too much into it, but they came to an agreement, and the Strait of Hormuz has opened. And what you've seen is an international massive dip in the value of, here, I'll just pull it up. Let's see. I'll just show you guys. Apologize. Sorry. Google's being difficult as per usual. Why aren't you giving it to me? It's not coming up on my search, the oil. 7.57% dip. Here. There we go. There we go. Look at that dip today after the announcement. And this has been since the negotiations have occurred, but point being, cost of gas is going to go down. And it's going to time perfectly with the excise tax relief. And Carney's going to be able to jump on that and say, see? I brought the price of oil down by removing the tax. It has nothing to do with him. The price of oil, the price of gas would have stayed the same. It will dip, but it will dip because futures in oil went down. Because the Strait of Hormuz opened. And it's the same thing as I said earlier with the grocery rebate. You're pretending like this rebate of a couple $100 a few times a year is going to help people. It's all announcements. When people hear that, they say, oh, he cares. He's here to help us. But if I'm paying, in total, I'm probably paying between 50 and 60% of my income goes to some form of tax. Not all income tax, but some form of tax in one way or shape or form. And by returning $200, $150, whatever it may be, I think it was $133 for me actually. 3-4 times a year. That's not good. That's not helping us. Help us by letting us help ourselves. That's how I feel about it. No. Regulation. That's going to be my new thing. I said it in my previous video. I can't remember exactly what I said. I think I said regulation, censorship, and control. That is the intention. All these announcements, they're all a fugazi. What can I say? I pointed one out in one of my latest videos. I can't remember which one it was. It's talking about infrastructure announcements. Carney made an announcement that he was investing in infrastructure, and it was this giant thing like, oh, we're giving Canadians jobs, and we're putting money back into the economy, and we're building infrastructure, major projects. And I looked into it, and the first project that they announced, the first one they got shovels in the ground for, which was just released a month ago, after a year of saying that he was going to fast-track building, after a year. And the first project that he announced has been in existence for several years now. And it's 2 years behind schedule. It was supposed to be completed this year, the year that he announced it. It wasn't his project. He's not fast-tracking anything. The project is 2 years behind schedule, most likely over budget, and it had nothing to do with him. The project began years ago without any input from Carney, but he's taking credit for it. That's what Carney does. But the libs are going to say, conspiracy theory. There's no conspiracy. Just look it up. It's on the government website. You just got to dig a little bit. That's all. In fact, I have my sources on the videos. Not all my videos have sources right now just because I'm a little behind, but the sources will be there, and I believe the sources for that video are already there. They changed the website. They changed the website to make it seem like it was a brand new development under Carney. But if you use the Wayback Machine, the website's been in existence for years, and that particular project has, like I said, been in existence for years. That's what I mean by you have to dig a little bit. Because had I said that to a liberal, said, no, this project's been in existence for years, and then they go to the website on the development of it, the government website, by the way, I say, no, look, it started this past year under Carney. No, they changed it this past year. they took away all the previous phases of development for that project to make it seem as if Carney was the one that headlined it, that jump-started it. That's on purpose. That's not a conspiracy. Look up how the Wayback Machine works. It's nothing more than archiving a website. Watch, I'll show you. Show you how it works. We'll go to cbc.ca. So go to CBC. Let's click an article. This one. No, this is a video. Sorry. Let's click an article. Sure, BC hockey team fined $1,500. There we go. We got some news for you. Prince George Cougars fined $1,500 after rowdy crowd disrupts game, throws beer onto ice. Anyways, so let's say this is a hot topic article and it's highly, what's the word? Highly contentious, let's say. I'm drawing a blank on the actual word I'm looking for. Remember what I said earlier about concussions? Yeah, it's hitting me. Anyways, and in a year and a half, they're going to change they're going to hide the article, they're going to get rid of the article, or they're going to change the article, which they have to put somewhere. See, last updated 3 hours ago. They do change the articles as time goes on. So they can eliminate an entire section. Let's say they're talking about Trump. Let's say CBC is accused of, this didn't happen, I'm just making something up, just to be clear. CBC accuses Trump of something nefarious, and it gets called out for slander. What CBC does is they come back here and they eliminate this entire section of the website that would be considered slander. But upon releasing of the article, there are millions of people around the world who utilize this right here. It's called the Wayback Machine. All it does is you click Save Page Now, and it archives the URL so that it saves the page as it is. So that if they change it again, you can go back to the previous iteration of that page. And I'll show you in a second once it's done archiving. So it's saved, right? So what we can do here is look at the calendar, and let's see if anyone else has changed it. See, it's just me. I'm the only person that's done it. But what will happen is if it's an old page, and I'll show you the government website in a second. If it's an old page, it'll have archives going back as far as the page exists or until the earliest iteration of someone clicking on that save URL. And then when you click on it, you're able to grab the most recent iteration. So if I click on that, saved one time, there we go. We have the most recent iteration saved April 18th. But here, let's go. I got to find it. I just want to show you guys how this works, because I shouldn't be the only one doing this. I'm not saying you guys need to take the time to go out and research, but if ever you're looking at something and something doesn't add up, it's a website and you're like, I swear I read something about, I got to find it in my Carney files. And search. Oh, I just got to type in Mark Carney and it should show up. Suspension of gas, Carney accused Marina, welcomes floor, Mayor, secures trade partner. Where is it? Maybe it's under. No, wrong one. I apologize, guys. I am just going off the cuff here. For anyone who's watching later on, I'm off the cuff. Maybe it's the roundup? Kyle Matthews. Not episode 2. Oh, it is episode 2. What am I thinking? No, it's not episode 2. Anyways, I think I can remember the site. I should have had that. It'll only take me a second to find it. The Embleton Community Center. There we go. Ah, perfect. Okay, here we go. There you go. Project update 0407-2026. Construction manager awarded, $64 million, blah, 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 blah. Look at this. The milestones, 25. So these are all under Kearney. Milestones awarded construction manager. Like, oh, okay. Look at that. Anticipated completion. This is great. Mark Kearney's doing a fantastic job. Look at he made this happen. His budget, what he approved, what he set out, what his ministers built, they did this. The Liberals did this. Let's take a look now. Oh, we have some earlier iterations of this website. March 1st, 2024. All right, let's take a look at what this website used to look like. Give it a sec. The heck? Embleton Community Center, 2023? I thought it was announced in 2025. I thought Kearney announced the funding just this year. Milestones. We just saw that they start in 2025, no? Oh. Design and site due diligence started in 2022. Detailed design was in Q1 of 2024. Construction was supposed to begin 2 years ago, but they just announced the project manager, remember? You know what, let's look at this original one. Project manager announced in 2025. They were supposed to start construction in 2024. Why is the project manager being announced a year after construction was supposed to start? Interesting. Wait, look at this. Q3 2026. That's this year. The project was supposed to be completed. They just announced it this year. They're now not starting it until Q2 2026. And now anticipated completion is in 2028. This must be a conspiracy. The Wayback Machine is fake, right? This website is fake. I'm just reaching. I'm just making this up. This didn't happen. In fact, I designed this website myself. Because Kearney's a good prime minister. He's a good man. Justin Trudeau was a fantastic prime minister. Did nothing wrong. Did not participate in endless scandals in which his own ministers had to resign because he refused to. Nope. All conspiracy. Talking out of my ass. Look at the conflation here. Look. On April 7, 2026, the Government of Canada launched the Building Community Strong Fund and announced the Embleton Community Centre and Park as the fund's first project. No, they have nothing here showing you anything before 2025. Q4 2025. That is between October and December. Or September and December? No, October and December of 2025. That was only a few months ago they're saying that this all began. Nah. Just a coincidence. It's legitimate. No, it's all about optics. Making people believe that the government is working for you. Making people believe that they care about you. With the excise tax relief that's going to last a few months. You think our economy is going to shift in a few months? You think things are going to be better by the fall? No, it's going to be worse. Everything is trending down. Every economist on the planet is saying that Canada's economy is imploding, with the exception of the IMF, which Carney keeps bringing up. And don't worry, I'm doing a report on the IMF and the ties that Carney has to the IMF. It's not a coincidence that he keeps using that I don't even know what to call it, that institution, financial institution. They are reputable. But there's a reason why certain countries on that list are doing much better than than they're perceived to be doing. And these are all forecasts, by the way. Forecasts can be manipulated very easily. How is the country doing now? Not good. Millions. How much was it this year alone? What did they say? 100,000? I'm not going to try and say the number. Endless stream of educated professionals leaving Canada to start businesses in the States. Let's see the latest report. See if I can find it. It's here somewhere. Comparing job starts versus those leaving for the States. Where are we? Here we go. Net business entries. Does this look like it's doing well? This is over the last 10 years. Look at this. That's negative 7,067 business entries. Entries versus exits. So that means that companies are leaving Canada. They're not dying necessarily, but they're leaving Canada. No, it's all a conspiracy. All the bad things happening in this country, it's all a conspiracy. Another church burned down, by the way. Just a conspiracy. Hundreds of churches burnt down over the last few years. It's just a conspiracy. No, we all get along. Asinine. Asinine. Well, I'm going to talk about one more thing and then I'm going to kick off because it's been me and my fiance and I miss her. So, liberals around the country are celebrating the 44th anniversary of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. I had to respond to this. Oh, he deleted my comment. Fucker. Oh, no, he didn't. Okay, I take that back. Apologize for the swear. This is what I have to say about the Charter, and I'm going to make an amendment to this slightly, because it's more than just Section 1. Said I'm going to write the same thing on every post I see celebrating the laughable piece of kindling that is our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Because that's what it is. It's nothing more than kindling. It's not worth the paper it was printed on. I also said, you're a disgrace, Ali. You don't represent democracy nor freedom, and neither does our Charter. And I stand by that wholeheartedly. The Charter is probably one of the most irrelevant documents in modern history. Actually, I said it's probably the most irrelevant document in modern history. I stand by that too. It means nothing. Our rights mean nothing. The only true documents, now this is an opinion, and this is rhetorical in nature, hyperbole. The only true documents when pertaining to human freedoms is the U.S. Bill of Rights when combined with the Declaration of Independence. I think those are the gold standard. If you can provide a country that shares in their capacity for freedom as the U.S. does because of those two documents, share it with me, please. And maybe I'll make an amendment if you have a country that provides more in the way of freedom. And I'm not saying a country that is more free, because I know that the U.S. ranks slightly lower than it should on the freedom index. I don't even know how they gather those metrics. But as far as those, as we're talking about documents here, show me a better document or a better set of documents. The inherent flaw is right in the text. Now, I posted on section 1, but there's also another section that I forgot about, that I forgot to include. I was actually doing this while I was working, so I was a little distracted. But anyways, this is section 1. The Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms guarantees the rights and freedoms set out in it. Now here we go. Subject only to such reasonable limits prescribed by law as can be demonstrably justified in a free and democratic society. What is this saying? This is saying that if our justice system, our Supreme Court, or federal courts, provincial courts, if they can justify reasonable limits being placed on our Charter of Rights, they will do it. And we have no recourse. And then there's section 33. Let me pull that one up real quick. What is it? I believe it's is it notwithstanding or nonwithstanding? So that was for our courts. The notwithstanding clause is for the Parliament, I believe. I'm not going to bother bringing up the actual... Oh, there we go. I want the actual reading. I want analysis. Okay, here we go. 33. Parliament or the legislator of a province may expressly declare in an act of Parliament or of the legislature, as the case may be, that the act of or a provision thereof shall operate notwithstanding a provision included in Section 2 or Section 7 to 15 of this Charter. An act or a provision of an act, in respect of which a declaration made under this section is in effect, shall have such operation as it would have but for the provision of this Charter referred to in its declaration. A declaration made under subsection 1 shall cease to have the effect 5 years after it comes into force or on such an earlier date as may be specified in the declaration. Parliament or legislator or the legislature of a province may reenact a declaration made under subsection 1. Subsection 3 applies in respect of a reenactment made under subsection 4. What is this saying? First of all, it admits here that this is unique among the constitutions of country with constitutional democracies. It's basically saying that Parliament can infringe on our rights for a period of up to 5 years if they deem it necessary, and the courts can't do anything about it. So you have Section 1 saying the courts can do that, and then you have Section 33 saying that our legislative branch, whether it's Parliament or federal or provincial, they can both infringe on our rights. They have 5 years to act on that infringement. You tell me, you think that's enough time to completely reshape our Constitution if they wanted to? You think laws can't be shaped and shifted in that time to render our charter, as useless as it is, null and void in 5 years? Look what they did in 2 weeks. In a matter of days, what they did in Canada during COVID. 5 years. Anyways, so as long as this section and Section 33, I didn't write that, but and Section 33 of the Charter exists, our rights do not exist. Every right and freedom listed after this paragraph is rendered null and void until it is abolished. And I stand by that. And I'm going to, again, amend that to include Section 33. So every right and freedom that they have listed in the Charter, I'm saying it doesn't exist. If they have the capacity to infringe on our rights, are they actually rights at all? And even then I say it's still flawed. Our rights and freedoms are either inalienable, meaning they cannot be removed from us, and most importantly, God-given. And that's a huge topic that I'd have to spend hours discussing, so I'm not going to get into that too much. Or they do not exist at all. If our rights are not granted by God, then the only true applicable right we have is defined by force doctrine. And what does that mean? It means our rights are subject to and defined by the will of those who would overpower us by utilization of a greater force than we are capable of possessing ourselves. And subsequently, they therefore are no rights at all. Just granted temporary privileges. And that's what we have currently. What am I saying there? I'm saying if our rights are not inalienable or God-given, then the only rights we have are just privileges given to us by people who have more power than us. If you have a body of people or an institution that has complete control over you, whether they're acting on that control or not, they have the capacity to control you using whatever method they want to. Physical force, economic force, financial force, legal force. And they can do with you what they will, and you can't do anything about it. That's force doctrine. They have power over you. They have force over you. And I said specifically here, utilization of a greater force than we are capable of possessing ourselves. Meaning there's nothing that we can do to push back on that. I'm not going to say fight back because I don't want to get accused of, violent rhetoric. I'm not saying that at all. But to push back on that, what recourse do we have? If they enact Section 1 or Section 33, what recourse do we have? They've rendered our rights null and void. You can't go to court over it. You can't say, they're infringing on our rights. Yeah, we know. They enacted Section 33. It's the notwithstanding clause. You know about that, right? Comment below if you know about that. I mean, if anyone actually watches this. But comment below if you know about that. And I'm not talking about the chat right now. I'm talking about future viewers. But it's the notwithstanding clause. You currently don't have any rights for the next 5 years. Go cry about it. That's our charter, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, not worth the paper it's printed on. It's just kindling. Make for a good fire. Mind you, you might get arrested for that because then you're releasing CO2 into the air. And that's bad for the environment. And on that note, Chris out.